First, let's start with this case. I'm a woman in my 30s, and this incident happened recently while I was at the airport waiting for a flight. About 15 minutes before boarding, I went to the ladies' bathroom to wash my hands. While I could have waited, I decided to go ahead and do it then. When I walked in, there was a line of about 6 women waiting for the stalls. I made eye contact with the woman at the front of the line and told her I was just going to wash my hands. She didn't seem to have any problem with it, so I went to the sinks closest to the entrance. There were 2 sections of sinks, and in the section I chose, the next 5 sinks to my left were completely unused the entire time I was there. I quickly washed my hands and was heading out barely a minute later. As I was leaving, a woman closer to the end of the line suddenly cupped her hands around her mouth, as if to project her voice, and said in a condescending tone, "There's a lie," followed by a laugh. I was so taken aback that I didn't know how to respond. I managed to mutter, "I was just washing my hands, so," as I left, but it left me wondering if I had done something wrong. I didn't think there was an issue because I wasn't using a stall, so I didn't delay anyone waiting in line. I didn't occupy a sink that someone ahead of me in the line needed. The sinks near me were completely unused during the time I was there. Still, her reaction made me second-guess myself. Is it generally considered rude to skip a bathroom line just to use an available sink? Was I wrong for washing my hands in this situation? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Tell that lady not to worry. You peed in a sink, so it didn't hold up the line at all. You're not in the wrong. Some people are just miserable. You're not in the wrong. But I would assume she didn't know you were just washing your hands if you only told the person at the front and she was at the back. Probably looked to her like you skipped the line and were in and out because of it. But this is going to go down on my list of reasons I'd never speak up publicly on my perceived slights, like line skippers. When you're wrong or missing key information, you end up looking like a fool. Next up, I live in a triplex with 3 units. Each unit has designated driveways, clearly marked with spray paint to indicate which driveway belongs to which unit. My unit is the largest, so we have 2 driveways. Recently, my neighbors have been hosting friends or family for extended stays. I have no issue with them having guests, it's not my business. But these guests have started parking behind my fiancé's work van in our driveway. They never asked if this was okay, and it has been happening consistently, not just for a day or 2. One day, we needed their car to be moved so my fiancé could open the back doors of his van to access his tools. The car was parked so close that he couldn't open the doors. We asked them to move the car, which they did, but as soon as we went back inside, they moved it right back. It's worth noting that their side of the driveway has enough space to fit another car. But I assume they tell their guests to park behind our van because they don't want to have to rearrange cars when they need to leave. They would have to park one car in front of the other. When this kept happening, I tried knocking on their door to ask them to stop parking there, but they didn't answer. For context, they've been rude to me in the past without reason, and they are relatively new to the complex. Since they wouldn't answer the door, I left a short, polite note on the windshield of their guest's car. The note said, "Please do not park behind this van without asking. I need to be able to get tools out and get out of this spot because of work. Thank you." Now, I'm second-guessing myself. For some reason, I feel guilty and worry they might get upset and complain to the landlord, escalating the situation. Am I wrong for asking them to move their car, or am I overthinking things? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. They have no right to park in front of anyone else's driveway, as that blocks vehicles from leaving and entering. You did the right thing by leaving them a note. You've been polite and have not started any battles with them. If they have guests, they can have them find street parking or park behind their cars in the driveway. They aren't allowed to block any other driveway. If they go to the landlord, that will be fine, because they will be told they can't park in front of your driveway. You've done nothing wrong. If they do continue to ignore your requests, the next step would be to contact your landlord or management company and let them handle it. You're not in the wrong. Normally, I would say you should not get the landlord towing cops non-emergency line and work it out with your neighbors, but it's time you do. If I'm understanding correctly, the 2 parking spots for your unit are, well, for you, meaning others shouldn't be parking there. It's one thing if they answer and move it when you ask, even though you shouldn't have to, but they clearly seem to not care enough to answer you. Alternatively, if the 2 parking spots are back to back and they are only for your unit, why not just park your car in the back unit, so that no one could park behind your car? You have been courteous and respectful to no avail. First, I would speak with your landlord. You are paying a premium for that unit and should get what you're paying for. They clearly have no respect for you, so I don't see a way around getting the landlord involved. If that doesn't help, then you have them towed. You're not in the wrong. Next up, I am a 16-year-old girl and have 2 younger siblings, Mia, 9, and Max, 7. Recently, our parents had to travel to the next state for a quick meeting but got stuck there due to severe weather. It's been a few days, and while they've been checking in regularly, I've had to take on the responsibility of managing the house and taking care of my siblings. I don't mind helping out, but it's been exhausting balancing schoolwork, chores, and making sure the kids don't set the house on fire. A few days ago, I decided to go all out and cook a proper dinner. I made a spinach and cheese lasagna from scratch. It took hours to prep, bake, and clean up, but I was really proud of how it turned out. It smelled amazing and looked like something out of a food magazine. When I served it, Mia poked at it like it was toxic waste, and Max outright said, "This is gross, I want nuggets." We didn't have nuggets or anything similar to make at the time. I was frustrated but stayed calm. I told them, "This is dinner. If you don't want it, that's fine, but I'm not making anything else." They refused to eat and went back to watching TV. I figured they'd get hungry eventually and eat, but when I checked later, they still hadn't touched the food. I tried encouraging them to eat again, but eventually gave up because I had a pile of homework and was already drained. A few days later, when my mom called to check in, I mentioned the lasagna incident. She got upset and said, "They have to eat something. Kids don't really like those things." I explained that I didn't have the time or energy to cook a second meal when I was already juggling everything else. She became even angrier, saying that they hadn't eaten much in days because they were too picky to eat what I had prepared. I understand they're kids and not everyone loves lasagna, but I feel like I already did my part by cooking, cleaning, and keeping the house in order. I didn't sign up to be a personal short-order cook, especially when there wasn't even an option to order takeout due to the weather. Was I wrong for refusing to make a second meal for my siblings when they refused to eat the lasagna I worked hard on? Edit. This happened about 5 days ago. I made enough lasagna to last a week, so I wouldn't have to cook much. My parents are back now, and the kids have already eaten. Let's start judging. Absolutely. You're not in the wrong. And your parents should be grateful that you've stepped up and taken care of things on top of your other responsibilities. If they're so worried about your siblings not eating, they should call them and explain the situation and that they must eat. Age 9 and 7 are old enough to understand it. You're not in the wrong. You're 16, taking care of the house and 2 kids. It's not your job in such age. Also, I'm wondering, how long have you been alone with your siblings? Quite concerning. You're not in the wrong. If they were hungry, they would eat it or figure something else out. It's not like this is representative of their diets for their whole lives. If they insist on eating like raccoons for a couple days while mom and dad are stuck away from home, let the trash pandas be free. You made food. They have access to food. They are currently not dead or dying. The house is not on fire yet. The minimum threshold of babysitting has been met. 7 and 9 is old enough to throw stuff in the microwave or make a bowl of cereal. I'm willing to bet there's granola bars or other snacks they could have gotten into if they were desperate. Next up, I'm a 26-year-old man battling leukemia that has recently metastasized to other organs. It's been an incredibly tough journey, and as I've come to terms with my situation, I've been giving a lot of thought to my final wishes. One of the most important decisions for me is how I want to be remembered, and I want my burial, or lack thereof, to reflect my personal beliefs, which are not religious. My family, however, is deeply religious. They've made it clear they expect me to be buried in a religious cemetery. I understand this comes from a place of love, tradition, and their beliefs about the afterlife. But this isn't what I want. In my will, I've made it explicitly clear that I want to be cremated, and my ashes launched into space. It's always been a dream of mine to go to space, and I feel this would be a meaningful and unique way to leave the world. To ensure there's no conflict after I'm gone, I've taken all legal steps to make this binding, and my executor is fully aware of my wishes. When I brought this up to my family to prepare them, they were heartbroken. My siblings argued that since I don't have religious beliefs, it shouldn't matter where my body ends up. My mother broke down in tears, saying she doesn't care what happens to my body, burial, cremation, or otherwise, as long as there's a physical location for her to visit. My wife echoed this sentiment, expressing that without a grave or a specific location, she and our daughter won't have somewhere to go to feel connected to me. I tried to reassure them, saying they could simply look up at the sky and think of me. But their reactions have left me torn. Seeing the people I love in so much pain over this decision is incredibly difficult. This choice represents one of the few things in my life I feel is entirely mine. I've spent much of my life compromising to make others happy, but this feels like the final decision I can make for myself. Fulfilling my dream of going to space, if only symbolically, is incredibly important to me. However, I understand my family's perspective. For them, having a physical place to visit is a key part of mourning and honoring someone's memory. My mom emphasized that their faith includes commemorative ceremonies that require a specific location for my remains. Without that, they feel they can't fully honor me or their beliefs. Attempts to compromise. Some have suggested splitting my ashes, but that feels counter to both my dream and my family's beliefs. They wouldn't see that as a proper solution either. I've also considered other ways to leave them with something tangible, like a keepsake made from part of my ashes. But I fear this may not satisfy their need for a physical resting place. Am I wrong for wanting my final wishes to reflect my personal beliefs and refusing to be buried in a religious cemetery, even though it goes against my family's wishes? Their reactions have made me second-guess whether I'm doing the right thing, especially as time runs out to change anything. Edit. The reason why the location of my remains is important to my family is because their faith includes commemorative ceremonies performed at specific intervals after death. Additionally, a physical resting place is seen as essential for their mourning process. Splitting my remains, such as launching part into space while keeping part on Earth, doesn't align with either my dream or my family's beliefs. While I'll bring it up again, I don't think either side will fully compromise. To clarify, there are legal documents appointing someone the right over your body after death. Although this isn't technically part of a will, I've ensured all necessary legal steps are in place to make my wishes clear and enforceable. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. You're the one who's going through this. It's your decision. If they want a physical place to visit, maybe find out if you and your family can plant a tree in a local park in your honor. Then your family can visit that anytime they want, while still respecting your choice. Depending on where you live, your instructions or wishes for your funeral, burial, or wishes for your body are not legally binding. They could just be how you state your preference for your remains, but your executor makes the ultimate decision. The money/property part of a will is different. An executor may be able to do what they want for the funeral or cave to your family's wishes. Have you spoken to a lawyer? I ask because all of this drama may be for nothing in the end, depending on the law where you live. I'm going to go no one is in the wrong. I get not wanting a religious burial. I'm Christian, but I don't plan on having a religious burial when my time comes. It's up to you to decide how you want to be handled in death. But I also understand your family. My dad passed and is cremated. His ashes sit in a box of his favorite wood carved with his '49 Ford truck on my mom's mantle. Everything was to his wishes, but sometimes I feel bad that there's nowhere special I can go to visit him. It doesn't feel sacred, for lack of better term, to just pop into my mom's room to visit him. Maybe you can suggest something like planting a tree in your honor, or having bench placed in a park with your name engraved. That would remove the religious aspect, but still give them a place to go. A park bench might be nice because they can visit and look into the sky for you, just like you said.